Hi. So I've been having a lot. Fuck's sake. Ugh. I've been having a lot of technical difficulties today. My um, devices have been playing up something rotten. This is my third attempt, like my reviews, of doing a video, and this one's been a half-hour video each time. So I've wasted over 60 minutes doing recording of stuff, and the volume's just cut out halfway through. So this is my last attempt. So anyway, Mandy's a geek, blah, blah, blah. Did you know? I'm not doing that anymore. It's done. And maybe it's just because I'm in a really fucking bad mood after doing this all day. But yeah, there we go. Fuck, 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 fuck. And I feel better now. So, as I mentioned at the end of one of my videos, for Pride Month, I don't want to do anything Pride related, but I thought, yeah, I'll do it this year. Pride Month, I think it's important this year, to be honest. There's so much hate, not from people I know, not from the regular people, but from politicians, from vocal people, like we'll just call them the evil bitch, the one who writes children's books and thinks she's a world class authority on everybody now. Um, that I feel it's important to have a voice now, to be proud of who I am, instead of just talk about other stuff. But it's still comics related. So long windy windy way of me saying I'm going to be doing a look at DC and Marvel LBGQ, LGBTQ plus representation in comics, from supporting characters, predominant supporting characters, to main characters in comics, um, and in a fun kind of ways, we'll see who wins. Now, I don't want to hear actually at the end of it saying, "Oh, you forgot this character." I've this isn't notes; it's just names of things that I could remember in my head. There's a chunk of Marvel that I cut round about from about 2010 to 2018 that I'm not very familiar with. I didn't really follow much Marvel then because it just didn't really interest me. So there's going to be dates, but I think I've got the chunk of it anyway. So who's the first gay gay superhero? It's not Northstar. Sorry about that. Yeah, Northstar came out in 1992 as gay, but in 1988, in a events comic from DC called Millennium, there was a character who's so well known, I can't remember his name. He was a superhero from Brazil, and he ended up joining the Global Guardians afterwards. I think that's what they were called. And yeah, issue 2 of Millennium, he it was blatantly said he's gay, and but it's such an awful cliche. That's why I can't remember his name, just because it's so it's so cringe. But he was the first gay superhero, 1988. And after No Star came out in Marvel, it was quiet for a long, long time, a really long time. So let's switch over to DC. Now, saying that about um, the gay superhero in DC, that wasn't the first um, queer character in comics. We've got to go back a bit further to I think it's the mid to late 80s. One of them is Pied Piper from Flash, Wally West's friend, the reformed criminal. He came out as gay, I think, in the late 80s. And also in the mid to late 80s, you had in the Keith Giffen plotted and penciled and Mary Birnbaum scripted Legion of Superhero title, you had a side character called Siobhan Oren who worked for the Science Police, who was the girlfriend of Element Lad, who revealed that she was a transgender woman. And Element Lad, of course, was devastated. Said, "Oh, that's fine." So there you go. That's a little bit of a useless bit of information. But carrying on with that, in the late 80s, early 90s, you then had Vertigo coming into prominence. So then you had titles like Doom Patrol, which are characters like Rebis, who was the hermaphrodite negative person, went from Larry trying to merge with a woman, and he became this hermaphroditic character. You had Danny the Street, and later on in Rachel Pollack's run, who herself was a transgender woman. You had the first transgender superhero called Coagula. So very queer coded. And of course, Grant Morrison came out as non-binary about 10 years ago. And also, in tandem with that, in Shade dealt with a lot of questions about sexuality and gender. For a few issues, Shade, the Changing Man, changed the title to Shade, the Changing Woman, because he changed into a woman. And you also had Sandman. Obviously, Neil Gaiman's a bit of a douche, but you did have Sandman, and with characters such as Desire, who was male and female, Wanda, who was transgender. I think it was Hank the drag queen. He might have been called something else. The Spider Sisters, who might have been sisters or they could have been lovers. And there's a really cute lesbian couple as well. And there's lots of queer coded characters in Sandman and other series. But the most predominant Vertigo character who was queer is John Constantine, who came out, who was he's always been classified as bisexual. So there you go. Yeah, still nothing from Marvel, so we'll stick with DC. So moving a bit further on, still back to the 80s, you had Maggie Sawyer, the first predominant lesbian character, created by John Byrne. Who'd have thunk it? John Byrne, who's a very conservative thinker normally. And then going up a little bit later, with Gotham Central, you had Renee Montoya coming in, cool character, really cool queer woman, who then later on takes up the mantle of the Question. Not shoehorned into it, just it's a natural progression with some really strong writing by Greg Rucka. And of course, you have Wonder Woman, who's bisexual, and the Amazons. I mean, come on, they're not going to sit there knitting all day, are they? And then moving a little bit later, then in the mid 90s, sorry, let's go back to Vertigo. You've got Invisibles with one of my ultimate icons, Lord Fanny, who is one of the major characters in the team of the Invisibles and is a transgender woman, non-op transgender woman. Cool as fuck. Yeah, so back to the 80s, we have Jericho from New Teen Titans. And we also have in the 90s, Connor Hawke, who later on is revealed to be asexual, which makes a lot of sense with his character. And we also then go to Batgirl, written by Gail Simone, who has a side character called Alicia Yeo, who turns out to be a transgender woman. Really sensitively written by Gail Simone. But one of the leaders in having a queer voice, or having a voice of any minority, is Milestone Comics, who came out in 1992. And in 1993-94, they had a mini-series called Death Wish about this serial killer. And the main protagonist was this detective who was a transgender woman and who lived with their transgender female partner. And it was done in their voice. The voiceover was done by them. And it went into the whole dynamics behind being a transgender woman. But what was cool about it as well, again, it was just by a transgender writer, Maddie Blaustein, who sadly has passed away now. And they also did voiceover work for cartoons like Pokemon and became quite known as a voice actress. So yeah, so this was like a nice, and you got Blood Syndicate from 1992, written by Ivan Velez Jr., a gay writer, who in Blood Syndicate, I think there was two gay characters and there's a trans man as well. So again, it was just naturally done. It wasn't preached. It wasn't over your head. It was just there. And this was back in the 90s. Just amazing. Um, and then also a little bit later, in Secret Six, you had Catman coming out as bisexual. So it's always been, what I like about how we did it with DC for the most part is how it's just naturally done. It's not forced in your face. The characters just, that's who the part of who the characters are. That's just part of their identity. But we'll come back to the later ones from DC, because let's go now to like around about the Marvel Now period of Marvel. So with Greg Pak, he's took up over Hercules. I think it was Greg Pak who made Hercules bisexual. It wasn't really a retcon. It was more like a natural evolution because he's Greek and based on Greek mythology. Around about that time in Greek mythology, a lot of Greek men were bisexual. It wasn't frowned upon. It wasn't taboo to love another man. And of course, with Marvel Now, you then had the Young Avengers, who had characters, again written by a gay writer, Heimberg, So you had Wiccan and Hulkling, really cool couple. America Chavez, fine, great. So I think that was the gold period, the sweet spot for Marvel. And then they kind of lost the way. That's when they started shoehorning and making previously straight characters gay or bisexual, etc. So let's go on to that. Suddenly, X-Men became sex men. It became very, very queer coded, but I think in a bit of a clumsy way, to be honest. And I think I'm allowed to say that as somebody who identifies as pansexual and transgender. So my biggest bugbear is what the fuck up what they did with Iceman. So the Iceman from 1963 comes back to present day, and suddenly it turns out he's gay. And so when he goes back to his own time, the present day Iceman suddenly has all these memories of being a gay man. Oh yeah, that makes sense. And then we suddenly have Kitty Pryde going from being bisexual, and after that we then have Captain Britain or Betsy Braddock and Rachel being in a relationship. Where did that come from? It just feels very shoehorned. It's ham-handed. Why not just make new gay characters, new trans characters, new LGBTQ plus whatever characters? And they did try that once. I will give them credit in about 3 or 4 years ago, uh, in the New Mutants, and I think it was written by a trans writer, Charlie somebody or other, and it was a character called Escapade, who was a transgender mutant, but they were only in for like 3 issues, and that was it. So, yeah, one couple that did work in the night, I think it was the early aughts or the late 90s, was Shatterstar and Richter. They became a gay couple, and and then one which has worked, which I think is cool, is Mystique and Destiny. Yeah, that's a chef's kiss. That's a relatable, realistic couple. So now we'll move back to DC. So we've said all that. So we'll move a bit later on now. Oh, we'll go back to 90 before I do that. Forgot about one character who's one of my favourites. Blue Starman from the Starman comic. He was alien, but he's also gay. And then we also have Obsidian, who got revealed to be gay, who was the son of Alan Scott, who then himself got retconned to being a gay man. Now, this was retcon for me that worked because it was nice having a gay elder statesman, because then he could do stories about what it was like to be gay in the Second World War and having to hide that secret, as well as his identity as a superhero as well. And we then move on to power couples like Midnighter and Apollo, who go against the whole trope of what it is to be a gay character. And then Batwoman as well, fully formed, cool character. Just so many. I'm sure I've missed loads. And later on, you've got Joe Mullen of Far Sector, who's bisexual. Just brilliant. Am I still on? Cool, because I'm not doing this again. And then we have John Kent, and the way he came out in the comic was really sweet. Came out as bisexual, and I mean, this was a comic what young people reading, and there'd be one confused kid reading that, and they just put their mind at rest, even if they can't get a hug. Even if they get judged by the mum and dad at home, they see John Kent being embraced by his mum and dad, by Lois Lane and Clark Kent, the ultimate American couple, even though he's an alien, saying that, so what, you're bisexual, we love you. So that gave any young person reading that thing, it's okay, I'm okay, I'm not a freak, I'm okay. Chef's kiss, DC, that's how you handle it. And it's a relatable, believable character. But one that I hated, though, was how they suddenly made, a few months later, Tim Drake bisexual. What? No, I didn't see that one coming. So we'll forget about that one. But I think some of the cooler ones as well, you've also got another cool trans character in Dreamer, written by transgender actress Nicole Maines. And also, then you also have the ultimate power couple in all of comics, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. It's messy, it's chaotic, it's believable, it's cute, it's wonderful. We love those two. Back to Marvel. What do they have? Gwenpool, who comes out as asexual, and in a way that makes sense. And I think the best one of recent years in Marvel is how they're handling Loki, who's gender fluid, who's non-binary, who's bisexual, who's pansexual, who's everything, especially with Al Ewing writing them, or them writing them. Yeah, great. One I don't care for is what to do with Deadpool. Is he or isn't he pansexual? In the films, he is. In the comics, not so much. So that's it, I think. Like I said, it's not complete by any means, and I'm sure my memory's failed me on some things as well. But yeah, just wishing everybody a happy Pride. Big shout outs of thanks to those people who support LGBTQ plus people when they're not that way, when they don't identify that way themselves, but they're just happy to be an ally. Much love to you, and much love to the rest of the LGBTQ plus community, which I'm happy to be a member of. Love you all. Have a great Pride Month, and speak to you soon. Bye.